Okay, and on to this third and final hand. This is another hand versus that same opponent here. Just a small hand that I wanted to add in that kind of ties into the combination of the first two hands. I've got ace-10 in the big blind. I'm going to try to do this one pretty quick, guys. I've got ace-10 in the big blind. Our opponent completes in the small blind, which I expect him to do with extremely wide range. So obviously I'm going to raise here in the big blind. I raise my ace-10 of spades to $2, about 4x, expecting him to call, and expecting him to call with a really wide range, and he does call. The flop comes jack, deuce, deuce with 2 hearts and a green card, so I'd have missed it completely. He does check to me. Now this is, again, a spot I think most people would bet, and I'm actually okay with betting here. I think that a lot of times when he has complete air, he will tend to fold here. But here I actually decided to check this back. The reason I decided to check this back is because I actually don't expect him to fold any better hands than my own. If he happen to has a pair, I don't expect him to fold. If he has a flush draw, I don't expect him to fold. If he has anything reasonable, I don't expect him to fold. So I really would only be folding out the hands that I'm beating now. Maybe a king high hand, or a worse ace, or a hand like a 7-8. These are hands that I have pretty good equity on, and I'm not really going to fold out any better hands, if generally when I get called here, he would tend to have hands that have reasonable equity. So I do decide to check this back. And the flop gives me second pair. It comes a 10 of red, putting the third flush card out on the board. And my opponent leads out into me now for half pot. Again, the bet sizing to me is interesting. Again, with the half pot bet. And this is another spot where I think I probably take a slightly different line. I'm going to raise. Now the reason I'm not going to take a line of calling here and then calling the river is because I think that there's more value to be had when he has some sort of hand. For example, if I was to raise now, I do expect to get called by worse tens and any sort of one card to the flush. Remember, look at his stats. He's a very big fish, a weaker player. If he just has any sort of one heart in his hand, he is the type of player that will call a raise here. So I do expect to be able to get called by a lot of worse hands here. Also, by raising, if I was to get 3-bet, if he was to come over the top of my raise, I'm going to feel very comfortable in laying this hand down. I don't feel like I'm making a big fold either. I feel like I'm beat. In these types of spots, when you raise, you're raise folding for value. And what you're doing is you're targeting the times that he will call, because these are what these players tend to do with hands like 10x, worse pairs, worse draws, and worse flush draws. He could have a hand like 8-9 here. He will call a raise. And those are the hands we're targeting. Also, we're taking initiative over, so the times a really poor card comes on the river, we're more likely going to get checked to, and we can check that back. But if a really good card comes off, or a decent card comes off, we can then choose to continue betting the river for value. So this is why I prefer raising in a spot like this, raise folding, compared to just calling turn and calling river. I raise to 733, and my opponent folds.